Ad Astra is a space travel Minecraft mod that allows you to travel to the moon and several other planets. You can craft rockets, trade with aliens, and even build your own space station. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do every single one of those things. So sit back and enjoy the video.
Alien hunting! Alien hunting!
Shh, Patrick!
So, to get started with Ad Astra, there is actually a couple pieces of technology that they add, starting with the coal generator. This is how you're going to generate electricity. Now, Ad Astra, I believe, is compatible with a lot of different power mods, and there's a lot of add-ons to make it compatible with other ones, but we're just reviewing the raw mod here. So the coal generator is how you will generate some power here. It's simple. You literally just put coal in here and it will generate power, and it powers machines like the compressor here. So what the compressor does is make a very important material, which are plates. So if I put iron in here, it will use the power from the coal generator to make an iron plate, which is just an important crafting ingredient we're going to encounter. There's also a few other types of plates we'll make. For example, you can also make a steel plate, but to make a steel plate, you need a steel ingot. And to get a steel ingot, as well as a few other alloys, there's another machine called the Electronic Blast Furnace, made with iron plates, redstone dust, and a blast furnace. And it makes this fancy looking device, which is powered by a coal generator here. This device has two modes. There's blast furnace mode, just turns it into an electric blast furnace that works pretty quickly. But if you switch it to alloy mode, you can put, let's say, an iron ingot in a piece of coal, and that will get you a steel ingot. Now, goes without saying, but to make a steel plate, you would take that steel ingot and put it back into the compressor and get yourself a steel plate. Now, I promise you, there's just a lot of tech that goes in before we can get ourselves into outer space, but we're almost there. Another crafting ingredient is the iron rod, which is just made with 2 iron plates on top of each other, and you get 4 of them. Now, you can use the iron rods, steel plates, a block of steel, crafting table, and 2 redstone torches to make yourself the NASA workbench. Now, this is probably one of my favorite looking little pieces of equipment in this mod, but this is how you're going to build yourself a rocket ship. Now, there's a few more things we have to do before we actually make our rocket ship, but we're almost there. These are all the pieces necessary to assemble your NASA rocket ship, starting with, there's a steel rod made the same way as the iron rod, but with steel plates. You have gas tanks, which this is actually more than just a crafting ingredient. Gas tanks will be important later, so you want to remember this one. It's just 4 iron plates and an iron rod. You have your engine frame, which is a bunch of steel rods and a steel plate. You have your fan, which is 4 steel plates and a steel rod. You have your rocket fin, which is like a little steel plate helmet with a horn on top. And then the steel engine, which is made with the engine frame, the fan, and the steel plates here. And then you have the rocket nose cone made with steel plates and a lightning rod. Now, all of these will go into the NASA workbench here. Okay, so you can see when I put the nose cone at the top here, you can see it's starting to make some particles, and you can actually just put things in one at a time. So you're gonna need to put your nose cone in. You're gonna need 6 blocks of steel for the middle part here. Then you put your rocket fins. There's actually one more ingredient I forgot, which is the steel tank, which you make with a gas tank, a steel rod, and then steel plates around the side here. And you're gonna need 2 of these. Okay, so we got our fins, our steel block, we have these 2 tanks, and then I believe the steel engine goes here, and bada bing, bada boom, you got yourself a tier 1 rocket. Which makes a big sound. And we get the achievement, Baby's First Rocket. Now, for a rocket to launch, which if you hold it, by the way, you hold it over your head like this. To launch the rocket, you're gonna need a launch pad made with steel plates and steel rods in this pattern here. You craft that and you can place it down. You have to make sure there's enough space. And then you can just go and place your rocket onto the launch pad. Now, the tier 1 rocket will get you to the moon, as well as there's a space station above Earth that you can also get to, but we're gonna need some fuel. If you go in here, we can't launch yet because we have no fuel. We also don't have any air because there is no oxygen in space. We're gonna have to prepare for that. Gas tanks you can fill with air, but if you mix 2 of them together with steel plates and a steel rod, you can make a large gas tank, which this is useful for holding oxygen and fuel. This is also another device that'll be useful on the moon that you might want to make beforehand, called the zip gun, which is 2 steel plates, a large gas tank, and a steel rod. This will help you move around in 0 gravity. But before we do that, there's a few more things we need to do. Starting with steel cables here. If you use steel plates, copper ingots on steel plates, you get steel cables, which these are actually just for electronic transfer. So if you have the coal generator here, you could use cables to kind of feed the electricity to other machines. You might end up using a different mod for this, but Ad Astra does have their own way. So what's going to be important is you're going to need fuel to get to the moon here. So you're going to need a fuel refinery made with a furnace, 2 buckets, and 6 steel plates. Now this is able to turn oil into fuel. Now you might be wondering, well, Dave, where do I get oil? And I'll show you right now. So if you go out into the ocean somewhere, you will find these oil deposits. They're not exactly uncommon, and they kind of just like sit at the top of the surface here, and all you need is a bucket, and you can collect 1 bucket of oil. A lot of these typically have, I don't even know, I'd say like 20 or so sources of oil, which is more than enough fuel to get you to the moon and back a few times. So once you return with your oil and you go to your fuel refinery and you put some electricity in it, you can take your buckets of oil and just put them right into the fuel refinery here. So I'm going to put 3 buckets in and we're going to fill up with fuel. Now to fill up a rocket, you're going to need 3,000 fuel, which is an entire full bar here, but those 3 buckets of fuel was more than enough here. Now you can either collect fuel in buckets, you can collect it in gas tanks. Like if I just put my buckets in here, I get 3 buckets of fuel. Now, if I'm to go into this rocket, I can dump these buckets into the rocket ship and boom, right here, we actually could take off theoretically, but we would, luckily it does actually save the fuel if you break the rocket. But if we go to space right now, I will quickly suffocate and die because there is no oxygen and no way to breathe up there. So that's where this comes into play, the oxygen loader, which you're gonna need a fan, a lightning rod, a block of redstone, 2 gas tanks, and 4 steel plates. And that'll get you the oxygen loader. Now, the oxygen loader here, you just have to load in some water buckets. You kind of need a lot of water, so it'll take a bit, but it will convert water into oxygen using electricity. Oh, hold on. I need to give it some electricity. As you can see, these cables are feeding power from the coal generator here, and it turned all of that water into a little bit of oxygen. So it does take a good bit of water to make a lot of oxygen. But while you're doing that, you have to make yourself a spacesuit here. So first, you're going to have to make an oxygen gear that you wear on your back, which is 4 steel plates and 3 steel rods. Then you need a space helmet, which is a glass pane with steel plates. Then you're going to need a space suit, which is 4 steel plates, 2 gas tanks, oxygen gear, and white wool. Space pants, which is just pants with steel plates except with some orange wool in the middle. Space boots, which is 2 steel plates and 2 white wool. Now this will get you your space suit. Now you can see in the top left corner, it tells me how much oxygen I have. Your space suit is how you fill up with oxygen, and it can hold up to 1,000. So if I take this and I go up to my oxygen refinery and I put my spacesuit in here, boom, I collected that 480 oxygen into my spacesuit, which really isn't exactly enough. But here, we'll just go with 480 oxygen and see how it goes. But now you have your fuel, you have your rocket, and you have your oxygen. You can make it to space. So let's hop into our rocket ship here. We'll double check. We have fuel here. Now, I would recommend bringing some extra fuel with you just in case for your return flight. But if you go into third person while in the rocket, you get an extra wide view because we're going to actually take off here. 3, 2, 1. Huh. Now we're flying. You get a cool little first-person view, and we are leaving planet Earth. All right, so once you reach all the way up, you get this little space menu here. You can see a bunch of the planets that are in the solar system, but with the Tier 1 rocket, we only have the option between Earth and the Moon. We'll get to this later, but if you do Earth, there is an option to go to make a space station, but you have to be able to construct it. So you're gonna need 64 steel plates, 32 steel ingots, 32 dash ingots, and 32 dash plates, which you guys don't know what dash is yet. That is a resource on the moon. So we're gonna click on the moon here and we're gonna land. So when you're landing, you spawn inside of this landing craft. And as you can see, this number that is dropping is how far away I am from the surface. Now you're gonna have to use your space booster here to make sure you don't crash into the moon at maximum speed. I felt like you really haven't had to use it till you get within like 70 blocks. So here we go. I hold space and we landed. Then you just crouch to get out. And here we are on the moon. Now, if you wanted to, let's say, immediately return because you realize that your oxygen is depleting fast, as you can see in the top left, you can see what my oxygen's like. You can open the inventory of the lander here and take your Tier 1 rocket out. I guess I should mention it's probably important to bring a landing pad with you as well. But there are a few structures on the moon that we're going to explore. And you should, I guess, notice that the moon has low moon gravity and is covered in moon sand. Basically, every second, like 0.1 or 2, oxygen goes away from your tank here. So you have to become prepared, but there is a way to sustain oxygen on the moon. But first, we're going to explore the structures of the moon here. So on the moon, there are lunarians, which are just lunar villagers. They sell stuff like soul torches because regular torches won't work on the moon, but soul torches will. These guys also sell stuff like wrenches, which is just used to realign technology. There's a bunch of stuff. They buy ice shards, which are some of the resources here. Let's see. Is there anything we can steal from them? No. They also can have careers. Like this guy is a librarian and sells regular librarian things. You can see at every level. Oh, this chest here has a bunch of Desh ingots. This is a very important resource that we will continue to cover here in a moment. I just want to see what else is upstairs. Oh, punched a villager. Sorry. But at the very top of this tower, oh, we got cheese, soul torches, more cheese, Desh nuggets, which can be turned into Desh ingots, lots of iron. So there's a lot of resources these villagers have. Well, also a lot of these lunar villagers live underground, like this guy is farming netherwort. And these guys have a lot more resources here as well. A lot of these chests contain Desh ingots, which, like I said, is an important resource. And sometimes they even have space gear. I'm not running into space gear right now, but I am running into cheese and emeralds. So, oh, like in here, we found a space helmet and way more Desh ingots as well. But let's head through the caves here, because if you enter the caves, as you can see right above it, there is a zombified villager. This is called a corrupted lunarian. They're just essentially space zombies. Ow, and they shoot ice at you. So you probably want to bring a weapon that I did not have. In the moon caves, you can find stuff like cheese ore, which cheese is just kind of a food. But if we go down a little bit more, there is iron in these caves as well. But there's also moon Desh ore. Now, Desh is a primary ingredient if you want to continue to progress in this mod. But there's also moon ice shard ores, and ice shards are very important. They have multiple different uses, including trading with villagers, as well as a fuel source moving on. So it's worth hitting these caves. Just remember that these lunarian zombies will shoot you. They're pretty much the only hostile mob on the moon. But you might be wondering, how do I actually survive on the moon while my oxygen is depleting? Well, I'll show you just that. So here are a couple new crafting ingredients now that we've collected a lot of Desh. Now you can create Desh plates the same way you would create iron and steel plates in the compressor. And those are going to be your main ingredient for a few of these things. Like the Desh fluid pipe is going to be useful to transport water and other fluids, which you just need Desh plates and glass, and you get 16 fluid pipes. Next is a water pump, which you need 4 steel plates, a gas tank, 3 Desh plates, and a hopper. Next, we're going to be making a solar panel, but in order to make the solar panel, we need to make a photovoltaic Ethereum cell. Sorry if I said that wrong, which is 3 blue stained glass, 2 Desh plates, and a diamond. So you need at least 3 diamonds to make a single solar panel. But this generates energy from the sun, and the sun is pretty much always shining down on the moon. So it's a great source of power. Next, we're going to need the oxygen distributor, which is 4 fans, a large gas tank, an oxygen loader, 2 Desh plates, and oxygen gear. Now, this will allow you to create basically a safe space station. So I built this little box here with this big fancy iron sliding door, which you can make using iron plating, which is just a block of iron plates, steel block, glass panes. There's also steel sliding door as well, which is just steel plates and steel block and glass panes, and it just looks a little different. You do not need to use this. You could use your standard door, but I mean, come on, that's pretty cool. And I recommend if you could fill a large gas tank with oxygen before you got to the moon, this would help the process a lot, because basically what we're going to be doing is using the water pump and an infinite water source to continuously fuel our oxygen distributor that will create a pocket of oxygen inside of a building. But the problem is right now, like if I just place water, within moments, this water will turn to ice. Like if you were to make an infinite water source on the moon, yep, it freezes pretty quickly, so this is not reliable. But it won't freeze if it's within oxygen. So the tricky part is getting the ball rolling with oxygen. So that's why if you can bring a large gas tank beforehand, it will save you a lot of stress. So let's take the solar panel. You don't need to use a solar panel. You could use a coal generator, but why not try to get an infinite power source and get your fluid pipes. Now, another possibly useful item for you is a cable duct, which is made with 4 copper ingots, the steel cables, and 4 steel plates. This basically is the same as the cables, but is an airtight block, which could be useful if you want to put, let's say, a couple solar panels on the roof. It's like, how are you going to get that power down without breaking the airtight seal? Oh, and I just broke our door. So you could have these cable ducts come down. So these cable ducts could be useful because we have 4 solar panels on the roof, and we just use these. The power travels between them and goes down to our oxygen distributor here, which is full of power, but not full of oxygen. So if we wanted to make it easy on ourselves, we put our oxygen gas tank in here. It will fill this thing up with oxygen, and then it will fill up this area with air. So you can disable and enable where oxygen is being distributed just so you can keep better track of these things. This is only a limited supply, so you're going to have to be able to make this an unlimited supply pretty quickly. Now, granted, I did put this in an awkward position, but we'll figure it out because now water won't freeze immediately when you put it here. So now we have to create an infinite loop. So we can put the pump right next to the same duct so it also gets power. Then we just send this pipe over, and now it is pumping water into our oxygen distributor, which is now replenishing oxygen. So now that we have this set up, we are safe. And as you can see, here I am. If I go into survival mode without my spacesuit, I'm going to start dying and freezing to death. But if I go inside and then enter survival mode, I have no gas tank on. Hold on, let me turn off the visual here. So yeah, if you want to just be able to see where it is, you can just do this. So we could fill in a much bigger space with this oxygen distributor, but I just have a tiny room for now. But I have no spacesuit on, and I am A-okay, safe and alive, living on the moon. So this is our little setup here, but we could distribute so much more oxygen to so much more space. You just have to make sure it's airtight. And a good way to distribute oxygen between 2 buildings is vents, which is made with 2 steel plates and 6 steel rods. Let's just say I want to expand the space station, but I don't really want to go through all of the issues of setting things up like we did before. So I got this room and I want to fill it with oxygen, but I don't want to just make a big hole. I can swap this out with a vent, and now through the vent, the oxygen will go through the walls here. So I could create another room. I honestly don't really know the point of the vents. I think it's more of an aesthetic thing. You could just have a hole, like these will now just connect. Takes a second update, but now these are connected. But vents could be a good way of distributing oxygen and keeping the role play up and going, I suppose. So I'm going to turn off the visual so you can see how many blocks it's distributing to now. It went up to 131, but if I go and I fill that up and we let it update after... Oh, I destroyed the pump, whatever. Now it says there's only 68 blocks being distributed to. Open it up, and that number will jump up to 131. So this can handle up to 6,000. Since I destroyed the pump, you can see the oxygen level does go down pretty swiftly. So you do want to make sure you got your pump going. But 4 solar panels on the roof here makes more than enough electricity for everything to go around renewably. So as long as you don't accidentally blow up your building and destroy everything, your systems are safe and sound. Now that we've been to the moon, we have gathered enough ingredients that we could move on to the next planet. But before we do that, I'm going to show you guys how to make a space station. So back up we go. You can leave the moon by simply just putting a launch pad down and relaunching your rocket to get out of here. All right, so once you go up, you can actually create a space station on any planet, but I'm going to create one over Earth. So all you need is 64 iron plates, 32 steel ingots, 32 desh ingots, and 32 plates. You do that, and it will create a space station, and you land just like you would on the moon. Oh, there it is coming into frame. So I like to use the booster right around when I hit 75 blocks away. You don't even need that much. You will just crash and explode if you land without using the boosters, if you crash into the ground. But when you're here, you have a space station. Now, this place is pretty cool. It's this giant iron plate box over whatever planet you decide to make it over. And you can look out the window and see Earth down below. Now, once you have it established, you can modify it in any way you want. You can even go as far as trying to make it airtight. But you're able to do anything you want here, which could just be good for a base or whatever. You can also just hop out of the space station. Total 0 gravity, by the way. Oh God, be careful, I'm floating away. This is where you'd want to use a zip gun loaded up with oxygen. Because let's say I have a full loaded spacesuit in survival mode. Even though I'm trying to sprint over here, it hardly works. But if you use the zip gun, you can just point in whatever direction you want to go, and it will use the force of oxygen to move you over. So be careful not to float away. Now, I did my research on this mod, but I actually don't know what happens if you just lose your way. Can you fall back down to Earth, you think? We're going to find that out. Oh, our space station is disappearing from view. Ah! Well, it looks like my question was answered, because now we are falling back down to Earth. Hey, if you had a water bucket, you can make it back that way. But then, of course, ultimately, your rocket would be left up in the space station, so you would have to build a new one to get back up. Speaking of which, let's get building of that Tier 2 rocket. All right, so for the Tier 2 rocket, it's pretty similar with you just need the rocket nose cone and rocket fins, but then you need to make a couple new dash-related parts, because this mod's kind of sequential. You have to go to the moon before you can move on. So once you harvest all the dash from the moon, you can make a dash tank using a steel tank, a steel rod, and dash plates. Then you have to make a dash engine using a steel engine, fan, and dash plates. And then also you're gonna need a bunch of dash blocks made with dash ingots. Now, before we make our rocket, there's actually another new thing you can make called the rover, which you can make using wheels. You need to make wheels with steel plates, black wool. You need 2 of these. And then you need a radio, which you can make with steel plates and a steel rod. This is a crafting ingredient for the rover, but it also works as a real radio and uses internet streamed radio. So like if I were to turn, let's hope I can find one that doesn't play music, but Hot 99.1, let's see, our KISS radio. Let me put that on. Ah! Okay. Well, that was, music that was copyright. Let me try to find something that might not be playing music right now. This is called Mission Control. All right, there's one of the few I'm getting to work is literally playing Sabrina Carpenter right now. But you could play internet radio over this little radio, which I think is kind of a really fun Easter egg without any setup. The mod just works, which is fun. I'm gonna put on no station so it doesn't randomly start blasting. But once you have all of that, you need a dash engine, 2 wheels, dash plate, radio, large gas tank, a dash block, and a steel rod, and you can make yourself a rover. This is just an all-terrain vehicle that's going to help you navigate different planets. So I'm going to bring this with me when we go and build our Tier 2 rocket here. So let me get all of the ingredients needed and make a few more dash blocks. So you just use some dash blocks. Now you are going to need 2 dash tanks and a dash engine, and bada bing, bada boom, we got ourselves a Tier 2 rocket. Voila. So we'll put that there. And this also uses 3,000 fuel. And once again, I do recommend bringing a launch pad with you if you want to definitely make it back. 1, 2, 3. All right. We're in our orange rocket now. And now it's time to launch into the skies. All right, so now we have another option added with the Tier 2 rocket, which is Mars. It's time to land on Mars, and we get the achievement called the Martian. Now, since I'm in creative mode, I am going to show you guys what happens if you don't apply your boosters and you slam into the ground at full speed. You don't want to do this in survival mode. Boom! So yeah, that explosion would happen. So you can see actually the rocket didn't even drop. So you would just lose all of your progress and it's not worth it. But we get a lot of Mars cobblestone and Mars sand. And here we are on the great planet of Mars. Now, if we place the rover down, we do actually need to give it fuel. You also have a decent amount of storage right here inside the rover. So I could just put a bunch of stuff in here. Okay, so this does take fuel. I don't know why when you hover over it, at first it said air, but I think that just meant there was only air in it. But once you put some fuel in your rover, you can drive this bad boy all around. And since you put a radio in it, you could turn on the radio and drive to some tunes. Oh my God. Okay, that radio works too well. I can't really show you guys because every time I turn it on, it's playing top 100 radio hits, and I care about not getting copyrighted. Anyways, Mars has some other biomes like this ice spikes biome because it is a very cold planet. Well, be careful with your rover because I just crashed it into a pit here. Occasionally on Mars, you can stumble across these Mars temples, which this one has an Ostrom block right here, which we can mine. Ostrom is a Mars-based resource. Oh, there was more up here. Where you can get some ice shards, riptide, lots of sand, ice. Very cool. Now, if you enter the caves of Mars, you're going to find these Martian raptors, these creepy-looking alien guys. Luckily, the spacesuit does provide a good amount of armor. Let's go after. I saw another one over here. So be careful. That's kind of Mars's local evil alien. But if we go down into the caves, we're going to find a few new ores. Wow, I found 3 bundled right here. So there's ice shard ore, just like on the moon. There's diamond ore on Mars, as well as ostrum ore, which I believe ostrum is going to be one of the more important ones. Oh, you can also find iron here. So if you can handle these little raptors, there's a decent amount of ores for you. But ostrum is one you're definitely going to want to mine. Oh my God, these Mars caves are huge. All right, so once you collect a lot of ostrum here on Mars, there is a bunch of new things that we can create. Starting with the ostrum tank and the ostrum engine. These are just upgrades for when we inevitably make the tier 3 rocket, but there's a few things we're gonna need to cover before then. Starting with the cryo freezer, made with ostrum plates, which ostrum plates are made the same as any other plate using the compressor. So 6 ostrum plates, 2 blue ice, and a large gas container, and you get the cryo freezer. Now the cryo freezer, as it says on its description, converts ice material into cryo fuel. Okay, sorry, I had to figure out how this works. So the cryo freezer helps you create cryo fuel, which is a more advanced fuel used for other rockets. So you have to give it a little bit of power, and then you can put ice in it, either using packed ice or ice shards, and you can create cryo fuel. Now, I believe the most efficient way is ice shards. Let me see. Yeah, every ice shard is creating about 25, 30 in cryo fuel. So you're also probably going to need a better power system than just a coal generator, which will bring us to our next crafting recipe. This is more of a crafting ingredient, but there's the etrionic capacitor, which just is kind of like a portable battery, but also a main crafting ingredient. So you need 3 diamonds, 4 steel plates, and 2 redstone dust. And then you need 2 of those, a diamond block, 2 ostrum blocks, and 4 ostrum plates to make the energizer. Now this just helps you charge things, but it's also like a massive freaking battery that can hold up to 2 million power. There's no UI if you open it, but as you can see when I look at it at the top of the screen, there is a little bit of power in here. Okay, I don't know why these cables aren't working, but if you put a solar panel or another form of power next to the energizer, it will fill up with energy. And using solar panels is great for this because it just continuously creates energy and will power up this giant battery. So you never really have to worry about electricity storage once you get this fueled up, which is good if you have an oxygen setup and, you know, in case anything breaks, you have this bad boy. And then once it's charged up, you can use it to charge your capacitors. Okay, now I think all of these cables are working because now this is gaining power at a very fast rate. But you can see I charged this with 52,000 electricity, so we can just have mobile power here. So you can see here with all of these solar panels set up with a bunch of ice shards, we are just creating tons of cryo fuel now using ice shards. So it'll take a while, and you're definitely going to want a good power system set up, but ice shards and packed ice and regular ice can be converted into cryo fuel. Now, before we go to some of these other planets, there is a more advanced spacesuit, especially when we go to hot planets, because so far we've only been to cold ones. So there is the netherite space gear. So you're going to need a full set of netherite armor to make this. So you need a netherite helmet, 4 ostrum plates and glass to make the netherite space helmet. You're going to need 2 large gas tanks, oxygen gear, 4 ostrum plates, and a netherite chest plate to make the netherite spacesuit. Then you're going to need netherite leggings, 4 ostrum plates, and 2 dash plates for the netherite space pants. And then you're going to need netherite boots, 2 dash plates, and 2 ostrum plates to get the netherite space boots. Goodbye, old suit. Hello, new netherite suit. So 1,000 is, I believe, 1 bucket of cryo fuel, which is 3 times as efficient as regular fuel. So I actually believe you can use it. So you can use cryo fuel in, say, the tier 1 rocket, and it will just be much more efficient than your other fuel type. But obviously, it takes a lot more power and resources to generate. But forget the tier 1 rocket. It's time to make our tier 3 rocket. So I actually have to go back over here and get ourselves the ostrum engine. So it's pretty similar as the other crafting recipes. You just need 4 ostrum blocks, 2 ostrum tanks, and an ostrum engine, and you get yourself the tier 3 rocket. Obviously, you need the rocket fins and the nose cone. Pretty much consistent with every other rocket. And bada bing, bada boom, we got the final frontier. Construct a tier 3 rocket. And look at this bad boy. This thing looks cool as heck. So I'm going to load this up with 3 buckets of cryo fuel. And it's time to move on and launch into space. So now with our tier 3 rocket, we have unlocked Mercury and Venus. So let's go to Mercury. Now Mercury, you're going to need this netherite spacesuit because it is hot, as you can see by the surface being covered in lava. And there's magma cubes all up on the surface. So I've come to realize that Mercury is one of the newer planets, and it really doesn't have much as far as resources. But the most useful thing to do on Mercury is use solar panels to generate electricity, because this is the closest planet to the sun. So if you set up a solar farm with some big batteries, you could generate tons of electricity and just come visit, collect your electricity, and leave. But besides that, it's kind of perilous. So the caves here are full of just basalt and lava, and there is only Mercury iron ore. So the only use of this place is to just get some better solar panel electricity, and that's about it. But you will need the netherite spacesuit, or you will burn. If I go into survival mode and I was to take off my helmet, I am on fire and I am dead. All right, so we're gonna relaunch and go to Venus, which is actually where you need to go to progress this mod. So Mercury is kind of a nothing burger, but Venus is where we do need to go. So let's land there. Now, Venus, you're also going to need this heat-proof suit, or else you are going to burn. Oh, I wasn't looking and I crashed and died. All right, here we are on Venus, and we immediately land right by one of these structures. And this is a pyro, like a pyro, I guess. They're these creepy, they're kind of like piglins, but they got one eye and they have crossbows. They're quite easy to defeat, but if you can enter their base here, they have a lot of nether items, like a lodestone. I mean, this one's got several ancient debris. You just obviously have to deal with killing all of them. But if you can climb up to the top, they also have chests full of stuff like diamonds, gold, and emeralds. God, these guys are loud and annoying. They have a lot of chests. I mean, gosh, so much iron, diamonds, golds. Oh, you can sleep on this planet, which is nice. Okay, so this is considered a Pygro village, and there's a Pygro tower. That's a structure as well, which is this bad boy. Whoa. And at the very top, we got these mogglers. Oh God, let's see. Let's see how hard they are to handle. Okay, they pack a punch, but if you have a netherite spacesuit on, they don't do that much damage. They have a bunch of daylight detectors up here. Okay, just another chest with some diamonds and gold and iron, some cobwebs. But these can be a good source of resources. I mean, if you loot them all, you're gonna get a few diamonds. Just be careful. I don't know why that killed me. Anyways, these guys are just hostile and you wanna watch out for them. There's also other Venus biomes, like this is the Venus Badlands with infernal spire blocks. So if you go into the caves here, you want to look for the Venus calorite ore. This is what's going to get you the last tier of rocket. You also need to look out because there's zombified Pygros here, but they seem chill. I imagine it's like pigmen. You punch one, yeah, they all go after you. You can also find diamond ore down here in Venus, as well as more of this. I think there's diamond ore and coal ore. Yeah, there's coal, gold, diamond, and calorite. So calorite is the most important resource you're going to find here. It's the one that gets you to progress. All right, so once you collect enough calorite, there are, well, the next tier of calorite things, including the calorite engine and the calorite tank, which we'll use to make the tier 4 rocket. But before we get there, there is a new spacesuit you can now make, like the jet suit helmet, which you just use your netherite space helmet with some tinted glass and 4 calorite plates, as well as the jet suit, which you can see can be charged here, which we'll get to. You need 2 calorite plates, 2 calorite tanks, 2 etrionic capacitors, and a calorite engine, and of course the netherite space suit. Same with jet suit pants. You need 2 calorite blocks, 4 calorite plates, and your netherite space pants. And then with your netherite space boots, you need 2 calorite plates and 2 calorite blocks, and you get jet suit pants. Now this is a pretty fun suit. Rocket Man. All you need to do is charge this bad boy up. So this can hold up to 1 million charge. I'm over here charging up this energizer. If someone can help me find out why charging cable, like transfer cables just don't work with the energizer here. But if I put my suit in here and just let it absorb all of the power, surely it'll be enough to at least let us get by. So you can see we have 4.7% battery here. Oh, but if you get it fully charged with full oxygen, you can see on the left side, there's 2 oxygen tanks and 100% battery, which if you go into survival mode and hold down space, you can just straight up fly. And if you use your sprint, like left control, you can jet around. It takes a decent amount of electricity, but if you have a good power setup, like if you had a good power setup on Venus, oh, be careful, fall damage, ow, okay, so be careful how you land. It's kind of like an Elytra in that case. But yeah, the jet suit allows you to fly around. You have full 100% armor. Flying around that good bait used about, 21,000 charge, which is what this actually charged up in the meantime. So you just need a good power system and you can just fly away. But like I said, be careful, because if you don't land yourself properly, you will take fall damage. But now that we have this brand new suit and we go over here and assemble our tier 4 rocket using calorite blocks, calorite tank, and calorite engine with, of course, the rocket fin and the rocket nose core, we can make the tier 4 rocket. So the tier 4 rocket is massive. We'll load it up with some fuel and we will get off of Venus. So now with the tier 4 rocket, you have the option between the regular solar system or Proxima Centauri, which is a nearby system with a planet called Glacio. So let's go land at Glacio here. And you get the achievement Interstellar because we have achieved a new space system. Whoa, that is the sun there, I guess. Now there are a lot of add-on mods that add new planets, but this is the last planet in Ad Astra by default. And it is a glacier planet. It's got some fun stuff like a Glacian ram, which I can't tell if you're friendly or not. Oh. They didn't drop anything. Oh, be careful of the deep snow. Good lord, I just fell into some deep snow. But it's kind of like an ice spikes biome over here with tons of ice. Glacio has this cool permafrost block that can be used to make some pretty cool looking icy decorative blocks in the stone cutter, which I think is pretty cool. There's also a bunch of ores you can find here. You can get ice shards, coal, copper, iron, and Glacio lapis ore. And if you go deep enough, you'll find deep slate and find your traditional regular deep slate ores as well. But that's about it for Glacio. Glacio is more of a novelty planet that you could set up base on. I was trying to figure it out, because in creative, there is Glacian logs and leaves, but I could not find a biome where these would actually grow. And it turns out only Lunarian traders on the moon you can get this from. I don't know how they got their hands on it, but it is a cool pink wood. I hope that one day they expand on Glacio and some of the interstellar planets in this mod, because the final couple planets aren't that exciting besides getting the rocket booster here. So there's one item I kind of forgot to show you guys earlier, but it is relevant on Glacio since it has low gravity. This is called the gravity normalizer. So this kind of works similarly to how the oxygen item works, where basically if you can give it some power, as you can set how many meters squared it will cover, but basically it creates an artificial gravity. It does consume a decent amount of electricity. I have several solar panels connecting from the outside here. But on like Mars or here on Glacio and you want some better gravity, this will contain a enclosed area just like you would with oxygen. And as you can see here, I just have normal jumps. And if I destroy it, we have low gravity again. So that'll be useful if you decide to create a lunar base or use a space station. So to end off the video, I tried to make a really scuffed little space station base. The architecture is not what matters here. What matters is, since space stations have zero gravity, also I decided to make one above Mars. If I go down here, let's just say, this whole area is zero gravity. I make my way over here, pop open the door, and suddenly, with this little outside solar array and some cable ducts, a water pump running as well, and these cable ducts are running power through the wall. I have the oxygen distributor here and the gravity normalizer. And throughout this little area, we have normal gravity and breathable air. If I go into survival mode, even though I only have 2 hearts here, I am totally A-okay. So this is just kind of what you can do. Eventually, obviously, people who are smarter than me and have better building skills could make some really cool ones. The gravity normalizer can do up to 20 meters squared. This is only, I guess, just about 10 meters squared. So you might need a few of these if you're going to make some big, crazy base. And then the oxygen distributor can actually cover a lot more of the base if I wanted it to. But you're just free to kind of alter these. And space stations could be a cool little way to, I don't know, build up your little faction base. But let me know what you guys thought about this mod review. Let me know if you'd like to see some Ad Astra add-ons or videos of the sort. I might even make a survival video on my main channel because I just love these space mods. So let me know. Make sure to leave a like and a comment if you found this video useful, and also comment down below any other mods you'd like to see me cover. I've just been kind of covering my personal favorites. Let me know, and enjoy your day, guys. Catch you guys in the next video.